Hello, my name is the Crimson Blur, and I'm in a particularly normie gaming mood. Why is that? Well, it's because I think this is the best time to be a gamer. This week has been absolutely crazy. It's absolute mayhem in the video game world. We just had the Switch 2 launch. We just had a State of Play by PlayStation. We have an Xbox showcase on Sunday. And just now, what just aired was the SummerGameFest by Jeff Keighley, which is basically the new E3. Or might as well be. Yeah, we had a ton of new announcements. So I wanted to run through what got announced today, basically going through all the relevant games. I'm going to filter out the gotcha games for you guys, and maybe the stuff that I think most of us won't care about. Let's do a bit of a trio. I call these the mid games that are getting a sequel, and I think a lot of these actually deserve to get this sequel. First up was Mortar Shell, which was the first game shown on stream. That game has a 69% on Steam, at least the first game does, and a 76 on Metacritic. The 69% on Steam sounds really bad, but that's because it was an Epic exclusive, and for most part got review bombed. A lot of Steam players don't like things that are Epic exclusive, you know, gamers. But it's a Souls-like, and the trailer looks fantastic. It definitely looks, like a big UE5 showcase. Unreal Engine, it was all over the Summer Games Fest this year. And so was the FromSoft influence. Tons of Souls-likes. But yeah, the art style in this was awesome. The first game had a hardened mechanic, so instead of like parrying, you like tanked hits. That was definitely a unique mechanic. Some people really liked it. It was a bit of a mixed bag, but I think it deserves a second chance, and I'm happy to see it go and be a new franchise, because I definitely saw a massive leap forward in this one, a bit of a visual showcase. First game was rather short too, about like 15 hours, I think. So a good bite-sized Souls game, and maybe the second game will be more expansive. Next up is Code Vein 2. You guys remember Code Vein was again a little mid, high 70s on Metacritic, I think 84% on Steam. The protagonist of this Code Vein 2 reminds me of a lot of Xillia 2's Ludger. If anyone's played that game, I actually really like that game. I like it even more than Xillia 1. Some of my favorite Tales of games. Could be another big leap forward. I think that what was shown here looked pretty good. Hard to say until it's out, but I think people who like the first game will definitely be excited about this. And next up, I think one that could see the biggest leap, though already the first game was pretty quality, I'd say. That's Atomic Heart 2. Metacritic in the 70s and 82% on Steam for the first game, but man, did it have a lot of cool concepts. Of course, should be said, an incredibly horny game. And that's like how they did their marketing. That's probably why it sold so well. And, it was criticized because the protagonist wouldn't shut up. There was a bunch of like repair bots that, swarmed around, the map that kind of made combat tedious, and traversal tedious. But the premise was incredible, alternate history, Soviet Union, where robots rebel, like the setting was really cool. I think a lot of people liked that, and that definitely hooked people in to get sales. So I'm excited to see the franchise get a second chance. And then, there was a voiceover in that initial trailer, which seemed to indicate aliens. So maybe that'll get mixed in there. I don't know. Also included was The Cube, which seemed to be some MMO they're teasing in the same universe. That one, not so sure about, but they're trying it, and they're trying to make this like a big universe, which I'll accept. Then they showed Game of Thrones Westeros, which is a Game of Thrones video game, which I'm surprised we really haven't any good ones quite yet. I'm personally pretty low on this one. I want to mention it because it's a big IP. It's an RTS, but it's made by the same guys who made Warcraft 3 Reforged. Maybe the Blizzard stench is what ruined that game. I don't know if it was actually these guys who messed that game up, but then again, the trailer showed no gameplay, just a bunch of pre-renders. Had a pretty good face cap on Jon Snow. So they actually got the real actors in to do that. That's nice. But a 2026 game with no gameplay, yeah, that's a very bad sign. Another thing we had in this show was two really cool beat 'em ups: Marvel Cosmic Invasion and Scott Pilgrim. Made by the same devs. It seems like they're doing two projects at once. Tribute Games. They're the makers of Shredder's Revenge. And they've also made Steel Assault, Panzer Paladin, Wizorb. If you're really paying attention to the indie scene, these are pretty good games. I'd be shocked if either of these aren't good games. Honestly, I think the beat 'em up genre is seeing a big renaissance. The genre has a pretty tried and true and well-tested formula, and people love these IP. People love Scott Pilgrim. People love Cosmic Invasion. I'm also particularly happy that Scott Pilgrim being moved out of Ubisoft's hands. You know, the 2010 game, critically lauded, but I don't think we trust current Ubisoft to handle the IP anymore. Great to see, tribute games being given that honor. Another game that got shown was more footage of Onimusha. First mainline Onimusha in 2 decades. Has been building up slowly since there's been like a remaster of the first 2 games in between that. And apparently there was a VR game, which I didn't even realize there was one, and a very bad Netflix adaptation, a notoriously bad Netflix adaptation. But, other than that, Onimusha, the first 4 games, fire, absolute hot fire bangers, pretty much universally liked, could have been reviewed even higher, I think, at the time. I think it's usually like low 80s back then, but I think most people in retrospect see that as some of the better games of that generation. Onimusha's back. Samurais, supernatural forces. I can't say, it can't get any cooler than that, Onimusha is going to be dope. It's cool to see Capcom, revisiting the well, I think also with that. It's good to see them, reviving a franchise, not just making new franchises. I'm excited for that. But new IPs, one of the stars of the show, if you give a little star to it, I think this is arguably the coolest thing that got shown. That's Felt That Boxing. An absolute standout. I can't believe this is in-engine footage, but it said in-engine footage in the trailer. It's Punch-Out with like Muppets and had music by Flying Lotus. They just put that on the trailer at the end real quick, so maybe you didn't catch it. So the soundtrack's gonna be really good. That has a chance to be one of the best soundtracks of all time for a video game. And also like the graphics, like I can't believe that was an engine. Like I literally couldn't believe it. And a new Punch-Out style game too. Like wildly unique. Seems to have awesome comedy to it and just pure creativity. Maybe the game that really stood out to me that I was like, I have to play this. I don't think there's a way I won't play this. Yeah, Felt That Boxing like completely knocked my socks off. Just couldn't believe it. Then we had Killer Inn, which is a social deception game, kind of like an Among Us type game, but with third-person shooting mechanics. By Square Enix, I'm a bit confused by that conceptually. Like, why would you have shooting mechanics if it's also social deception? Like you can just shoot your way out. Like I don't quite understand how it will work, but of course it'll all come down to the gameplay. I think we need more social deception type games, so I'm happy that it's being tried, but I'm not sure if the execution on this one will be quite good. Art style seemed a bit bland, bit meh to me. Lambs versus wolves, but again, since this is a genre that doesn't have a lot of games, if you're like really jonesing for another Among Us, Square Enix is making one, and it might fail, it might not, we'll see. Speaking of subgenres that don't get enough love, but that I'm very excited for, a couple co-op campaign games, couch co-op campaign games got announced. First up, there's Out of Words. Has a James and the Giant Peach art style. Like the art style. The characters seem to have no mouths. That's why it's called Out of Words. Probably they're looking for their voice, kind of like Little Mermaid. I think that's seems to be the plot. Made by the previous developers of Felix the Reaper, which is only like high 60s on Metacritic. So I was a bit worried about that. Not the best reputation for the developer, but nonetheless, couch co-op campaign. We're desperate for them, so I think I'll probably play it. Honestly, it's a very high chance I'll be playing it. And there was also Lego Voyagers, which is a puzzle game in the Lego universe. This was actually made by the builders of Lego Builder's Journey, which you probably missed because it was originally an iOS game. And that actually sunk its scores down on Steam and Metacritic a bit because most people complained about the controls because it was really meant to be a phone game. I think 79% Metacritic, 83% Steam. Not so bad, but could be better. But this one seems to be made for the ground up for those platforms, for non-phone platforms. So that's a great sign. I like couch co-op campaign puzzle games. There's a handful of good ones, but not enough. So gonna look out for this Lego game. Not the only Lego game shown though, actually. And this next one was very interesting to me. Lego Party, a Mario Party knockoff. And this is actually great news for anyone and everyone involved because we haven't had Similar game to Mario Party in a while, and Mario Party's been bad for a really long time. If you'd ask me, there's pretty much been no good Mario Party since the GameCube, I'd say. I haven't exhaustively played all of them to say for sure, but like I think most people agree the GameCube era Mario Parties are the best ones, with maybe the N64 ones also having some fans. Yeah, it's been really bad. It's been so bad for so long, with some games that have just been atrocious. You know, Lego's a good IP to come at Nintendo with that. It's even releasing on the Switch, so they're really coming at Nintendo, for that. But, you know, makers of Moving Out, which is a really good sign. Moving Out was a party co-op game, really funny game, kind of like Overcooked, and generally well received. People like that game. That's a really good sign. Yeah, Lego Party. I think that has high potential. I think actually that could be quite good. What else did we had? We had Mind's Eye, bro. We had Mind's Eye. So that game has an interesting story. So it's a new IP by a new studio. We're seeing a lot of new IPs this show, which I actually thought was really cool. I'm sick of just the franchise, rehashing the same franchise over and over again. We're seeing a lot of new IPs. And the way it's happening is because we're seeing a lot of turnover in the industry. We're seeing a lot of layoffs, and we're seeing a lot of new studios be made. And in this case, this is a studio that was created by Leslie Benzies. If you don't know who that is, that's actually the guy who had a very public falling out with Take-Two and Rockstar because of unpaid royalties. So he sued them. They seem to have settled it by now, but this has Rockstar DNA in it. Of course, to us, not quite to the budget of like a GTA 6, but it's been teased for a long time. Seems to have like a 15 to 20 hour campaign. It's not completely open world, though you can't seem to explore it. More mission-based, third-person shooting. Comes out in 4 days, so we'll know how good it is pretty soon. Rockstar pedigree doesn't guarantee that it's going to be great, but I think it's definitely interesting. Things that worry me is that it seems to have like an emphasis on user creation tools, and there's like a drone that follows you around that does the shooting for you. I'm not sure those are things that will lead to good gameplay. I kind of like the idea of having that streamlined 15, 20 hour experience. But, we'll see. Third person shooting, like, how hard it can be, yet many developers seem to fail that basic formula. I don't know. Another of the coolest things that came out was Lies of P did a shadow drop of a massive DLC. Generally considered one of the best Souls-likes ever. I still haven't played it. I still have to play most Souls-likes. I don't know why. It's just been in my backlog. I know I'll like them. I've already liked the ones I've, played. Yeah, it's a prequel DLC. It's out now. Fully featured story, new areas, full expansion, $30 DLC. Already well received in the early reviews. There's people who have had access to it and just put out the reviews right as it got shadow dropped during SummerGamesFest, and yeah, predictably, it's very good. It's predictably very good. I mean, it's Lies of P, right? We know it was a Game of the Year contender, one of the best games, and a game which many people who I respect said it was the best game of that year. So yeah, new DLC just got shadow dropped. That's awesome news. We also got a little closer to Mina the Hollower. If you don't know what that is a new IP, first new IP from the makers of Shovel Knight, Yacht Club Games. It's a GBC stylized game. Reminds me of Link's Awakening a bit. Maybe some vibes from that. It's been teased for a while. I'm 100% going to check it out because I play all of the Shovel Knight games. Sorry. I don't know why I made that mistake. The Shovel Knight games, I like them a lot. I still have to play Dig and the other one, Pocket Dungeon, I think. But I played the full Treasure Trove and I thought it was awesome. It was really great. Bit of a retro throwback. Sort of, it had pretty checkpoints and stuff, but whatever. It was really fun. And they only make bangers. So Mina the Hollower, GBC stylized game. Pretty bold to do that as your next game when you have such a good IP with Shovel Knight. And then they showed a VR game. The only VR game of the show. I kind of feel like we might need a VR expo, a dedicated VR gaming expo. I'm someone who likes VR. I've been a bit off of it for a bit, but this was a Deadpool VR game. Pretty standard gameplay VR that you've seen in a lot of VR games. Swords and guns, and then it's going to be Deadpool quipping the whole time. So comedy style game. We'll see if it's good, but regardless, it's cool to see VR still getting some support. It did have some good releases last year. There was that Batman game. That was definitely shown off here. And then we also had the third game in the Dying Light series. A series I haven't personally played, but I know a lot of people like. So I have to include it. Survival horror with parkour. Yeah, seems to be received fairly well. People like it. If you're a Dying Light fan, Dying Light the Beast. That's coming up pretty soon. Another thing that's coming up fairly soon is Blighted, which is from the makers of Guacamelee and Nobody Saves the World, which are two really, really good indie games. I'd say like top tier indie games by all accounts, by everyone I seem to hear from at least. So really good pedigree. Has drop-in co-op. The visuals look stunning. Everything I see looks stunning. And then I saw the indie showcase later and they mentioned dynamic difficulty. That gives me worries. I gotta be honest. I generally don't like any dynamic difficulty system. You know, sometimes it's okay in shoot 'em ups when you see like with ranked, like Balgarega, that kind of sort of thing. Usually like when the game becomes harder, the better you do, and easier, the worse you do, and you don't have full control as a player. Then again, Resident Evil 4 had dynamic difficulty, and no one seemed to notice. No one seemed to notice. So one of the GOAT games had it. So I'm not trying to hate on it too much. It is made by some developers that have a lot of good history, and yeah, I mean it looks really good. So probably gonna be good. Then we have a game that looks amazing, that looks unbelievable, and probably because it is, and that's Ill. First game by a new studio that's actually been teased for a long time. It's a new IP, Unreal Engine 5 showcase. A lot of body horror, big survival horror game. Me personally, I know the trailer looks good. I know the trailer looks unbelievable, but I've been around the block for a long time, and I am incredibly skeptical. It looks a bit too good to be true. You know, this is a studio that doesn't have a track record. I wouldn't get too worked up about it. Yeah, I mean, the art looks amazing, and it has looked amazing for a few years now, you know. But we'll see if it ever releases. We're probably quite far away from this game coming out, but if it ever lives up to half of its promise, it's gonna be dope. That's gonna be the big test for it. Up next was a game that I was originally pretty excited for, but then I thought about it more and I was like, is this what you would really want out of this? And that's Tessimals, which is like Bugs Life meets Horizon Zero Dawn third-person shooter. It's a new IP from a new studio. And, you know, I like a lot about it. I love the idea of Bugs Life and you're fighting against robots. Well, actually, I don't know if I love fighting against robots. If you're Bugs, I want bug v bug warfare, probably. I don't know about that. And then I was like, you have a bug game and you're shooting guns? Like, what? That just seems like a missed opportunity. Like, shouldn't there just be, like, real bug warfare? I don't know. Like, why am I playing a third-person shooter? So, it kind of ends up feeling more like, Army Men, right? It feels like an Army Men game almost, but somehow you're a bug anyway, you know, like because you're shooting guns. But you know, my first impression of the trailer was actually this looks pretty good. So, in fairness, thought it looked all right, but yeah, I don't know. It felt like a weird mix of genres. And then here we go, maybe my star of the show, and this is because my bias is showing. It's Wu-Tang Rise of the Deceiver. It's a Wu-Tang game. It's a Wu-Tang game, bro. We haven't had a rap game since like Def Jam? I don't know. I didn't think a reveal could break me, and the thing is, I know I have to reel it back because this is made by a new studio who has no track record. Once again, new studios keep being made because everyone keeps getting laid off. But man, the idea of it sounds good. Uses the original and classic Wu-Tang soundtrack. It has, you know, co-op action RPG, up to 3 players online. Not that low budget, 53-person team. You know, in the studio, so it's not that low budget. I'd elevate that from above indie. It's probably like AA-ish, not quite, you know, somewhere in the middle. And the plot is that you just rescue the Wu-Tang Clan. You know, that sounds pretty cool. I want to rescue the Wu-Tang Clan. I'm in. I'm praying this is good because the concept and potential of a Wu-Tang video game, playing in the Shaolin and saving the Wu-Tang, that should be a banger, bro. Please do not mess this up. Come on. Come on, it should be a banger. And honestly, it looks pretty good. The art looks good. I could see it being amazing. Another highlight, I'd say this is one of the bigger highlights of the show for me. New IP from a new studio. Once again, we're getting real creative. We're not just playing the same games all over again. It's a new era of gaming. Into the Unwell. Action roguelike with up to 3-person online co-op. Art reminiscent of like 1930s animations. Very, very unique. I thought it looked really good. It's, you know, like a 3D action roguelike. Art looked beautiful. Hard to know if it's going to be good because, again, new IP from new studio, but some of these are going to hit, and some of these are going to end up being a Game of the Year candidate, one of the best games. It's going to happen. One of these things that we saw, well, we all are looking at like, oh, that's weird. I don't know who, doesn't have the franchise appeal that we're used to, but one of these games are going to hit, and they're going to hit hard, and I think this one has a big chance. The eye test on it looks too good. Following that up, we have Stranger of Heaven, new RGG game, and if you know RGG, they don't miss. Maria Gotoku, right? Or something like that. The guys behind the Yakuza series, I guess now the Like a Dragon series. They also make the Judgment series, sub-series. Yeah, this one used to be called Project Century, which was a thing we saw a trailer a while back. That had it said in 1915. This trailer was set in 1943 Japan. That's right, World War II Japan. Don't see a lot of Japanese games made in that setting, do you? Yeah, I know. I think it's gonna be pretty spicy to see what a Japanese developer does with that setting. If you guys have ever traveled to Japan, you know that the thoughts on that era are very different there than they are here. So I'm excited to see what the storytelling will be there. There's probably gonna be some time hopping mechanics. If the previous trailer was in 1915, this is 1943. I think that's gonna be like a theme of this. New series from RGG, and they have never missed, so it's probably gonna be amazing. And so, yeah, I'm gonna play it. Like that's just how that works. Of course, the big finale of the show. How did it take me so long to get to it? The big finale of the show was Resident Evil 9. Resident Evil 9. Resident Evil Requiem, I think is the subtitle, which is a cool subtitle because the Q is like a 9. You get it? The Q in Requiem is like a 9. It's like RE9. They're smart, dude. They did it with Village too, with the 8. That right there, that's marketing. Yeah, this game, they slow rolled it to us, dude. The reveal was awesome. They absolutely cooked us with a fake out. Basically, earlier in the show, they said that, hey, you guys are gonna have to wait for later for a new Resident Evil game, and like they basically said, hey, no announcements coming, and then the later that we had to wait for was just later in the show where they unveiled a full RE9 trailer, and it seems to feature Grace Ashcroft, which is the daughter of Alyssa from Outbreak, which I think none of us played. I know I didn't play it. I didn't play that game. But I know that, like, at least from what I read, she was, like, dead set on figuring out the truth of the Outbreak. And so it seems to be Grace has gotten that sleuthing passed down, and that's now, like, going to be part of what you do. It seems to be you're returning to Raccoon City. Haven't done that in a while. That's pretty fun, right? And I think one of the biggest things is the February 2026 release. February 2026! February 2026 for RE9, dude. Resident Evil is cooking, and so is Capcom. I mean, you got Onimush, you got Resident Evil. They had Monster 100 Wilds this year. Capcom seems to be firing all cylinders. I don't think they've been this good since the 80s. I don't know. Capcom right now is hot. They're hot right now. I don't think that's the game of the show. My game of the show, I mean, it might be this. It's either this or Felt That Boxing. I think it might be something that wasn't shown at SummerGamesFest. It was shown in the show after, which was like the indie game showcase. Big Walk. Did anyone check out Big Walk? Big Walk looks so cool. Big Walk might be the coolest game of the show. It is so smart. Made by the Untitled Goose Game devs, which if you played is a super funny game. I really like Untitled Goose Game. It was fun. It's a short little campaign. You can play it. It's cheap. Try it out. And Big Walk, though, is a co-op campaign game. You have to watch the trailer to truly understand it. It's really genius. It's basically a proximity chat game where you're doing navigation with a group of people and solving puzzles with a group of people with online co-op. The way the game is set up is you're supposed to split up and try to find each other again using proximity chat items and things across the map. And then you solve puzzles with, again, proximity chat, but there's like things that block your proximity chat. You need to watch this trailer. Big Walk looks crazy. I know a hit when I see one. Big Walk's going to be the next big thing. They cooked with that one. That one looks great. Another game I'm excited for. This is another one that basically confirmed I'm going to play it. And that's Ratatan, which is a Patapon spiritual sequel. And it's pretty similar, but this one is, roguelike with online co-op. Beautifully animated, just 2D army of little guys, and exactly what Patapon fans want. It's cool to see a series like this getting a spiritual sequel when it's probably an IP hell at this point. Yeah, Ratatan looks really cool. And finally, we have Sword of the Sea, which was actually shown at the State of Play, but we got more footage of it now. Makers of Abzu, Pathless, Journey, and it looks a lot like Journey in particular. It looks just like Journey. I thought it was Journey too when I first saw it. Yeah, this was shown at the State of Play, but I want to mention it because what we saw at the Indie Showcase gave us a lot more information. Namely that it's actually more of an extreme sports game than I thought. It's like a vibey one, but you know, you can do tricks like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like skate. You know, like you're actually like doing flips. So yeah, I mean that wraps up like the major announcements of Summer Games Fest. What are my thoughts on the show? Was it a good show? I think it's a good show if you're someone with an open mind. If you're someone who went there with the expectation that if there was no Silk Song, I'm gonna be like, then it's a bad show. Or if you thought that, oh, if there isn't an announcement in, you know, if we don't get to see the Wolverine game, or if we don't get to see this or that, like it's a bad show, then yeah, you're probably walked away disappointed. But if you're someone who said, I'm open to seeing new IP, which is me. I the reason I like video games is the new and creative experiences you can give me. And I thought it was a fantastic show. Great. Just like the State of Play before it. I mean, we got Marvel Tokon in that freaking show, you know? So I think it's going to be exciting. Not all these games are going to be good. Absolutely. I know it, right? But some of them will be. Some of them will be. And some of these studios are going to be the next great studios as we move into a new generation of gaming. You know, I think in gaming right now, if I'm doing a broad brush approach, we're seeing a lot of old IPs kind of wane away and lose relevance. You know, Halo is kind of going away. Bungie's kind of going away. We're seeing a lot of Nintendo's old IPs kind of being rehashed and reused. We're seeing, you know, Blizzard go away. Tons of old stuff that we used to love is going away. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay. Because we don't need sequels forever. As long as creativity is alive, good games will live. And I think that this show is another example of that. So I'm pretty excited personally. And, you know, I'm hoping the Xbox Game Showcase this Sunday will be even better. Who knows? I might watch that on stream. I'm not so sure. You guys can check out my stream on twitch.tv/thecrimsonblur. If you guys like this video, I could make more content like this. I plan on making more normie gaming content because that's the kind of gamer I'm slowly becoming, and I want to talk about it. I want to talk to the internet about my opinions about video games. So follow the channel if you can. Give it a like, subscribe, whatever the hell people do. And yeah, hope you enjoyed.